Hello, guys. Good afternoon. My name is Victor Garcia, and I am a first year student here at STC. And I decided to do my research on the artist Antonio Lopez Garcia. To tell you a little bit more about Antonio Lopez Garcia, he is a Spanish painter and sculptor. He was born on January the 6th, 1936. He is currently 84 years of age, and the small town he was born in is called Tomelloso, Spain, which is not really a small town. It is actually a pretty big city. It is also a very well-known city. It's also known as Ciudad Real. Antonio is well known for his realistic style of painting. He is actually one of the best painters Spain has ever had, for his artwork has been introduced and presented internationally. The early life of Antonio Lopez Garcia. Coming from an agricultural and farming family, Antonio, at first it seemed that Antonio was going to continue the family tradition, the family's footsteps of becoming a farmer. However, an early facility for drawing caught the attention of his uncle, who at the time was a local painter of landscapes. His name was Antonio Lopez Torres. His uncle gave him his first art lessons, and then in 1949, when Antonio was 13 years old, he moved to Madrid, where he would study to enter the competitive Real Academia de Bellas Artes de San Fernando, located in Madrid, Spain. This academy is the most prestigious academy for art, and only the best of the best and the most competitive get accepted. And while Antonio spent long nights studying, and luckily for him, his hard work paid off when he got accepted to the academy. Like I mentioned, he studied at the Real Academia de Bellas Artes de San Fernando in Madrid, Spain, between the years of 1950 and 1955. During his time there, Antonio won multiple prizes and awards, but the most valuable of them all would be the friendship he had with Maria Moreno, who was also a painter and who would later become the woman he would marry in 1961. Her death is unknown, but unfortunately for him, she would pass away at the age of 87. And I also forgot to mention this, but during his time at the academy, Antonio made three great friendships as well. One with Francisco Lopez Hernandez, with Amalia Avia, and Isabel Quintanilla, who would become great friends, and to date they're still very good friends. They are inseparable. Antonio's different styles of realism. Antonio gradually became aware of Picasso and other great artists when he would go into the library at the academy and check out books where he would read about Picasso and the other great artists, and he would learn about the styles of paintings they would acquire. And then in 1955, Antonio was awarded a scholarship which allowed him to travel to Italy with Francisco Lopez, his friend, and together they would study the Italian paintings from the Renaissance. By 1957, Antonio's work had registered a surreal quality. Figures and objects that he would paint would appear to be floating, like in the painting that I will show you in a bit, called The Apparition, which he made in 1963, where a child seems to be floating and hovering, gliding to an open door. Magic realism continued to inform his work through the mid 1960s. I will now show you the painting of The Apparition. Here is one of his most famous paintings in the magic realism style. It is called The Apparition, and Antonio made it in 1963. And as you can see, the little boy appears to be floating, gliding to an open door. And even though he had many famous paintings, Antonio didn't have many one artist shows. His first individual show was held at the Ateneo de Madrid in 1957. Three have been in New York, two in the 1960s, and one in 1986 at his current representative, the Marlborough Gallery. And then in 2008, he was featured in a solo exhibition at the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston. The exhibition included the enormous bronze heads he sculpted of his grandchildren. So besides artwork and the art life, Antonio Lopez Garcia was also featured in an award-winning film called El Sol del Membrillo, which in English translates to The Quince Tree Sun. This film or documentary was filmed in 1992 and was directed by Victor Ariz and was written by both Victor and Antonio. This documentary depicted Antonio's struggles to paint, and then as he draws a small quince tree behind his studio, it allows and gives the audience considerable attention to his almost fanatically exacting working methods. I did have a clip, but unfortunately it did not let me put it here in the PowerPoint. But it is the famous clip where he is outside his studio and he's actually drawing a quince tree while he's listening to the radio. And if you listen closely to the radio, it shows you, or you can hear the news reporter talking about the Soviet Union, the Berlin Wall, about how there's been violence in Spain during that time and everything. And I just think that it's really cool how besides and despite all of the trouble that Europe was going through, Spain especially, even then, even all the dangerous things out there, he still became a very humble and talented and successful painter. So that's one of the reasons why I also chose to learn and research more about this artist. Okay, so moving on, as we all know, Antonio Lopez Garcia was not only a painter, but he was a sculptor as well. Antonio Lopez Garcia has become one of Spain's most finest painter and sculptor, and his art has been displayed all over the world. One of his most famous sculptures is a giant baby head displayed outside the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, called Night and Day. These sculptures and several other recent works made by Antonio have been inspired by the birth of his grandchildren. When Carmen, his second grandchild, was a few months old, he began modeling two portraits of her head, portraying when she is awake and the other when she is asleep. In an interview given at the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, Antonio stated that these sculptures presented his first opportunity to work on a monumental scale, transforming his intimate portraits into large-scale bronzes, endowed them with an entirely different, unexpected character. Antonio also said, "Your starting point is a representation of your everyday life and what is close to you." He reflected, "But what is created becomes about many things, known and unknown." Night and Day are now in the Museum of Fine Arts' permanent collection. Also, there is a slightly larger pair located at the Atocha train station in Madrid, where they commemorate the victims of the 2004 terrorist train victims. This is the day and night sculptures. As you can see, we have the day, which is when she is awake, and the night when she is asleep. I chose to research and learn more about Antonio because even though there might be a lot of similar artists like him with similar artworks, the one thing that stood out to me was that he seems to be a normal artist. I've heard about artists who are freaks and very talented at what they do, but they lose it sometimes, up to the point of cutting their own ear, which to me I've heard it is normal, but to me it's just a little bit insane. Antonio, however, from what I researched, has had a normal life. He went to an art academy, was married, and was inspired by his own family to do more artwork, which to me is beautiful. Plus, he is a very interesting man and very talented as well. Plus, the reason behind Night and Day, the motivation behind it, is his grandchild. And for the sculptures to be famous internationally says a lot about his talent, humbleness, and hard work inspired by those close to him. That is all, you guys. Thank you so much for listening to me for a bit. I wish you guys good luck in all of your finals, and I hope you guys have a good one. Thank you.